Good evening, everyone. We're going to call to order the regular Board of Supervisor meeting, September 13th, 2022. And we're going to Board of Supervisors. Do you want to make a note for the minutes? We did have executive session prior to this meeting regarding personnel. First up, we have some announcements and presentations. This Saturday, September 17th, is our Fall Fest. It's going to be on Houston Road by the high school, and it's going to start with a 5K run at 8 a.m. and it's going to be followed by the main event from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. I want to encourage everyone to go to the township's website for more information or to register for the run. Janine is one of the supervisor liaison for the Fall Fest. Is there any announcements that you wanted to make, Janine?
We just got confirmation that a special guest will be joining us. It's the Philly Fanatic. So arriving around 12:30, I'm sure we'll have some entertainment to provide. So make sure you're there.
So it'll be a lot of fun. It's a lot of food trucks. A lot of fun for the entire family. Next up, we have public comments. Is there any comment by anyone in the public on anything that's not on the agenda? Don't see anyone online. See anybody here? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move along to our general business. First up is consideration of ordinance amendment to chapter 1241, our stormwater management. There were some changes that were made to our stormwater management ordinance. There were required changes. We advertised them last week. Jim, do you want to share any specifics around those changes?
The changes are necessitated by DEP. They put together a model ordinance. They're pretty minor in nature. There's some wording, some clarifications. Honestly, the biggest changes to the illicit discharge, what can and cannot be put into the storm sewer system or into the directly to the creek. So swimming pool discharges is an added thing. So what they want you to do is to put those directly into the sanitary sewer system.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board? Are there questions from anyone in public, online? Seeing none, I'm going to put forward a motion for us to adopt our new stormwater management ordinance. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next up is the approval for our traffic proposal for the traffic signal upgrade at Norristown Road and Tennis Avenue. I don't know. Are you with us? From McMahon, we have a guest. How are you, sir? Pretty good. You're going to give us some insight?
Sure. Anton Kuhner from McMahon Associates. This is related to a Green Lake Go application that the township submitted at the end of last year, and they're successfully awarded it from PennDOT in the spring. The project was for improvements at the intersection of Norristown Road and Tennis. New controller assembly, emergency preemption, a battery backup, countdown pedestrian signals, push button upgrades, and replacing all the signal heads with LEDs and retro reflective backplates. The total project was $199,000. The grant was for $159,440. The township's commitment is 20% of that total cost, which includes our services to prepare permit plans for approval by PennDOT, bid specifications, and then assistance during construction, which was in this proposal is $15,000.
Are there any questions from the board? Seeing none. Are there any questions from the public? Thank you so much. I'm going to put forward a motion for us to approve the proposal for the Norristown Road and Tennis Avenue traffic signal upgrades. Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next up is a discussion around the electric sign for Veterans Memorial Park. Jamie supplied us with a memo kind of outlining in the 2022 budget. There was money appropriated for upgrading the existing monument sign located at Veterans Memorial Park with an electronic sign. The current signs manual, the recreation director is required updated by hand periodically throughout the year. And in preparation for the 2022 budget, they gather quotations, estimated cost for the upgrade being $35,000. And what that would include is a double facing sign, messaging software and installation. And the sign would actually be placed in the existing stone surrounding it and will be operational from the township building. So this is just a discussion. Is there anything you want to add, Jamie? I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is just a discussion. This was a budget item that was carried over from 2021 and actually from, I think it originated in 2020. So before we move forward with going out and getting updated proposals or quotations for the actual sign, it's a different board than was in place back then. So we wanted to just see if there was still if people still wanted to look into a sign there, if it was something that was worthwhile pursuing, or if it was something you wanted to revisit later. So before moving forward with anything, we just wanted feedback.
Are there any renderings of what it would look like?
I'll have to check back. They might have provided something with the proposal
It's gonna be
originally.
it's not gonna be like some townships have it sort of freestanding, or like we have in front of the township building. where
Yeah,
it's
no,
like-
they're going to utilize the cabinet that exists there where she puts the lettering in, and they would fit it into that. They would already use what's there. So it's kind of like it's almost like a cabinet it fits in.
I just have a couple clarifying questions. Does our sign ordinance allow without exception for us to have an electronic sign? I say that because I know that a community organization had to go in front of zoning hearing board, I think, to get approval in order to have that electronic.
Yeah,
sign.
we had to go when we got it for out front.
Oh, so we had to go.
Yeah,
So it's not allowed in our existing ordinance. You need to get approval.
I think it's by,
Special
yeah,
exception.
at least it was back then. Yeah.
Okay. So was there any consideration, and again, I don't know if I saw the renderings. I know that my initial gut reaction is that it's adding more light pollution unnecessarily. I don't know what it would look like and how bright it would be, and I know that there's restrictions on colors and. all of
Yeah,
that
it's got to,
decoration.
they would have to abide by the same rules that we have for the one out front, which is it can't have a scrolling screen. It has to have the one color set. In fact, it's actually almost when he gave us two proposals, because it's actually they make them more today. They have like a lot more graphics and they can do a lot more things, but our code requires that it be what's out there, like what we have out front. So there are restrictions like that. And the one out front operates from 7 in the morning till 11 o'clock at night, and then it shuts off.
Did he make any kind of determination as if that house or whatever we call it, is it structurally sound to house? We're talking about 2 screens, right? One in each
Yeah, it's a
cabinet?
double set. Yeah.
Is it-
He did go out to the site when he prepared that proposal, but that, that proposal's a year old. So that, I can, go and
Yeah.
get all this information if
Yeah,
there's still an
I'd like to
interest
see
in it.
that.
That's basically what I'm trying to find
Right.
out.
And security,
Right.
you've got an expensive piece of equipment out there.
I'd like to see what it's gonna look like.
Yeah, I
mean,
think
it's
that-
hard to do, it's hard to consider this in a vacuum.
I think the current way that we use it needs to be revisited, whether it's an electronic sign or there's something else that we do with that house. But I know from the Parks and Rec survey that we did back a year ago, before I was on the board, but I remember reading the results was that people do not rely on that to get information. And I do think, it is a focal point in the township. People drive by it a lot. So it is a good place to get information out.
Yeah.
So I do think we should consider some way to display information there, but the way that it currently functions, I think is not how we would like it to function.
And it's very cumbersome and burdensome on Sandy to go out there. The glass plate door itself is very heavy. I don't think it's really secure with the bolt that it is. Takes her a lot of muscle.
Yeah.
And a lot of times she's stepping over feces and urine from whomever is using it for their perusal.
It's like, because it's a little private like nook that people.
So I guess my question is,
I never been in Spring Hill Tavern.
Love for that thing.
I guess my
don't
question
Is
is,
there better, I mean, there, I guess you could also,
is there an
is there a better
alternative?
way to?
Is there an
Right.
alternative outside of an electric
Right.
sign that
Mhm.
maybe reduces the visual or light
Yeah.
pollution, but also is something that can be done remotely so that Sandy doesn't have to physically change it?
Not as, it's not in the state it is now, no.
Yeah.
Right,
But
it's
I
gonna
think
have
that's
this-
the purpose of.
Yeah,
making it
that's what I'm saying
I
is-
didn't hear your whole question.
No, I was asking her, is there another way that we could update it so that it could be a
Mhm.
remote?
Or maybe even considering,
Is there something else freestanding outside of that house?
Right,
that
or
would
do we
make-
Yeah,
need
maybe
it?
not
I
even
mean,
use
Right,
that.
Do we even need it?
Value.
Right.
right,
Yeah.
So
I mean,
maybe
instead
we-
of spending what will probably be $40,000 or $45,000 this year,
Right,
I mean, if people aren't getting their information from that, what's the point of it?
right.
I agree with all those points that probably that sign is not very useful. But if we do decide to put up an electronic sign somewhere, the Energy Committee would like us to consider solar powered energy for that as another demonstration project.
So well, I guess
I would have
maybe
no
why
problem.
don't we get some renderings and then maybe see if we can't get some pricing for this, the way they had priced it, the way they had proposed it before, and then for it being solar paneled, and that'll probably help inform our decision, I suspect.
Okay.
But the other issue is where to put it. It doesn't have to go in that little triangle. We could put it somewhere else.
Well, I think the house is a terrible location just because it is that nook that's kind of away, but it is probably one of the more visual areas in the township, like
Yeah,
that,
but
the arch or like the half moon.
I
kind of when
mean,
you
the
come
other
in.
digital sign that kind of is not very attractive to me. I mean, I just wouldn't want to replicate that on the main thoroughfare. of
You
the
talking about the one we
township.
have up front? You talking about us
No,
or the Bethlehem Baptist Church.
the church.
Oh, okay.
I'm not attractive to that kind of sign.
So I guess we're
Yeah, we
looking for
can-
more information,
yeah, we-
alternative
mhm,
ways
yeah.
and,
I think we need to resolve the issue that is that.
Right, but there's a consensus that there is an interest in doing something with the
Yes.
sign. Okay.
But we're just
I
not
mean,
sure
getting rid
what.
of- getting rid of it is possible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
completely not having something too, but it is a focal point, in the township, so it is a great way to display information. I
Yeah,
do
we
think that
can
it's
use
just-
that little display area for something more interesting than what's there. I can't say I've been here 26 years that I've ever looked at that
Right.
sign in that little building.
is the house historic? Like, are we preserving
No.
that house for some reason?
No, we like.
It-
Yeah.
Yeah,
We built,
yeah,
what's
Yeah.
inside of it? Is that where you store the
So-
stuff?
It's and I may get this wrong, but I believe it was to replicate
Spring House.
a spring house, like a well, like a spring house.
Oh,
And it actually was built wrong the first time and it was knocked down and rebuilt.
oh.
know that.
What is
Is-
it?
The
is that
stone
one-
didn't replicate
one
the
those-
time period.
Split.
Bethlehem Pike.
But the original stone did not replicate what the board was looking for. It didn't match the time frame. So
This
it's-
is rivers, like this is Riverstone or is it some kind of special stuff?
I
So
don't,
nothing's inside?
no, it's empty. You're only seeing two sides. That's it.
I didn't get up on it. I didn't know.
The other two sides are not there. There's only two walls.
Oh, that's why there's species and urine there.
Yeah.
There's only two walls.
So we're keeping this for no reason? I mean, I'm not speaking for the board. I'm just personally asking the question. We're creating an alcove where people could do. Yeah, okay.
So was that put in place when the whole split rail fence idea
It was
got?
late 80s.
Yeah,
I was here.
that was
I
it.
remember it.
Those are ideas that we might need to revisit once we do our,
So there's nothing preventing us
Our
from knocking
planning
it down. It
committee
doesn't have any historic
commission.
significance.
We put it there in the 1980s.
So I guess maybe
1989.
potentially the recommendations could include the elimination of that pseudo homes.
No, it's a spring house. It was never
Spring
meant to
house.
replicate a house.
Okay, the structure. And if that maybe makes it easier to put a sign or some kind of communication board. Okay. Next up is, it's the consideration, I'm sorry, is there any other question? Are there any other questions from the board?
No.
And are there any questions from the public? Seeing none. Okay, next up, we have the review of the 2023 minimum municipal obligation for pension funds. I think you see in your board packet, we have a memo from the interim manager that kind of goes over the 3 pension plans and the computation by the actuary. Finance Director Chuck, do you want to come up and give us a little bit of an overview?
Sure. There's 3 MMOs, one for each plan. The MMO is the annual minimum municipal obligation that the township is required to put into each of the plans. The police pension plan, the non-uniform plan, and the non-uniform defined contribution plan, which I believe started back in 2014 or 15 for employees hired after that time. All you're really doing is acknowledging their existence and that they need to be budgeted for in 2023.
Okay, this is a statutory requirement that we're.
Statutory requirement, the calculation is done by the actuary. There's really nothing that can be changed or adjusted. You know, these are the numbers.
Okay,
I would just note that look at our state pension aid estimated for next year is $297,452, and that covers a bulk of that number. So, you know, we're left with $24,000. That's net from the township's coffers.
are you saying 24, is it 27? 27.7, wait a minute, is this sheet not correct?
I'm trying to do the math in my head here.
Oh, okay.
It's 297,452, I believe, is the
$23,000.
295,400.
Yeah, yeah, okay,
That's the revenue coming in from the state pension aid. And if you look up top there, the 3 MMOs total $320,975.
328.75.
329.75.
320, yes.
Okay, so the difference is 23,443.
Right. So just point out that the township piece of that after state aid is not that burdensome and is actually pretty low compared to a lot of other municipalities.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any questions from the board? Are there any questions from the public? So our statutory requirement is that we review it. We don't have to make a motion or pass anything related to.
I'll leave that to the solicitor.
I
Correct.
do
That's
have a
correct.
question. So we have that really nice amount of money from the state. What is that? Is that dependent on our financial rating as a township?
No, it's dependent. You know, they have a pool of money that's collected from insurance companies that do business in Pennsylvania that are Pennsylvania based. And that money is whacked up to come up with a per unit value. And then you get 1 unit for each non-uniform employee, and you get 2 units for each police officer. So whatever the unit value is times the number of people that you have, that's how they arrive at the state aid. Has nothing to do with need.
Okay, I just was wondering if there's, not that we need to, I think we've got a really nice amount. But if there was a way to ensure that that we didn't lose that amount of reimbursement.
That has nothing to do with the township's financial
Okay.
position.
Great.
One thing we are a little concerned about, that the actuaries warn us about is we don't want to lose that. If you notice, because we've been funding extra in the plan for a number of years now. And this really is as much in play now as because of what's happened in the markets, but we were overfunded. And what will happen is the MMO would drop down below the state aid and then you lose the state aid. So that's something we just have to be conscious of. But like I said, with what's happened in the markets, you don't have to worry about that right now.
What is the percentage that if we go below, what is the state aid level?
The state aid that's there, that MMO dropped but below the number at 297 and 432. The state aid would be reduced by that amount, whatever that difference is. In other words, you can't get more in state aid than what you're actually spending. Yeah.
Gotcha. Are there any additional questions? Thank you so much, but you're not done. Well, technically you might be for a second. We have receipt of the invoice history for August 2022. Have all the supervisors reviewed that?
Yes.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I'm going to put forward a motion to accept the invoice history for August 2022. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries. Next up is the financial year to date and the balance sheet for July 2022. Did you want to give us any insight into that, Chuck?
Just as I noted there, year over year, last year at this point in the year, we had a $9,602 deficit. This year we have a $92,150 surplus year to date. Our expenditures or revenue, let's go for revenue first. Revenue has increased to $1,164,538 over 2021. And that's mainly due to all of our different tax categories have exceeded the prior year collections. So that's very positive. Expenditures are also approximately $1 million higher, but that's primarily due to the transfers to the other funds, transfers that we budgeted for 22 to go into like the capital reserve, open space, et cetera, were about $1 million higher than the prior year. And that's considered an expense from the general fund. Otherwise, expenditures overall are on target within the range that you would expect them to be, and overall they're on budget.
Okay. I mean, the significant leap is the earned income tax.
Pardon me?
Is it the earned income tax was a significant leap?
Yes, it's
Right?
very significant, and obviously we're not done the year yet.
Okay. Are there any questions from the board? No. Are there any questions from the public? Seeing that, I'm going to make a motion to accept the financials year to date and the balance sheet for July 2022. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the approval of the minutes from August 23rd, 2022. Minutes were in the board packet. Has everyone gotten a chance to review them?
Yes.
Okay. So are there any questions regarding the minutes? Put forward a motion to accept the minutes for August 23rd, or August 23rd meeting, 2022. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed is no one. Motion carries. Thank you so much. Next up is committee reports. Is there updates on the township committees and board subcommittees with the supervisor liaison? We kind of went over the Pike Fest briefly. Fall Fest. I'm never gonna get it right. Sorry. Park and Rec, is there a general meeting that Kathy or you guys want to
We
give?
haven't attended. We didn't have one in August.
You didn't have a meeting? in
Right,
August?
and
Okay.
Coming up.
Okay.
Yeah, next.
I
week.
have a public question for the Park and Rec Committee. I was asked about an update on the pickleball courts. Where does that stand? The member of the community has been pursuing this with the township for at least 2 years and would like to have an update as to the status of that.
I think that was part of the strategic plan that
Yeah.
Jim was working on for the parks, but you guys go ahead.
Yeah, I think my recollection is that we were discussing, we went after it pretty aggressively in discussion wise in Penland Park. We decided not to do it there because it's so close to residents. It's a noisy sport. And then with our tour, I believe we were discussing maybe painting the courts at Oxford.
In Oxford, right?
Yeah.
And then we also discussed exploring another location as we renovate the parks.
Yes, but it was tabled pending getting the strategic plan and obtaining some grants, going after some grants. So it's still on the table.
So is there an ETA for a decision?
No, because we need a decision on the grant funding so we can do the plan.
So they're
Okay.
strategically kind of approaching the parks holistically, and correct me if I'm wrong,
Mhm.
so that everything kind of isn't jumbled together or thrown together.
Yeah, and we approved that.
And so
In a
basically
public
we,
meeting.
yeah, and we applied for the grants at a previous meeting. I don't know if that was May. At a previous meeting, we did approve
Applications. and-
applications
yeah,
for
we're
grant
just waiting
funding.
we still haven't heard back on
Mhm.
a decision on those grant applications, but we've communicated that priority to Gilmore, who's helping us with the plan.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I did want to get that into the minutes. So if there's a question, there's a current update and
Yeah. EAC,
We meet tomorrow.
tomorrow is EAC. And the historic committee hasn't met since you went to the Ingersoll House. Is that accurate?
Correct. We meet Thursday.
Thursday. Okay.
So is it the
It's a busy week.
second Thursday or first Thursday?
Historic is the
Thursday of the month.
the third Thursday.
Yeah, and just a note in the e-newsletter, I listed it as the fourth Thursday.
Oh, okay.
It accidentally, it's correct on the website, but just in case anybody's going off of the
Oh.
e-newsletter, it's wrong. in there.
So it is
I
the
think
third
so.
Thursday of every month.
It's the third
beginning next
Thursday.
month? Because this is the second week, right?
No, I think it's the third Thursday.
Yeah, because the first Thursday was September first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's the third
Okay.
Thursday of the month. Yes.
Gotcha.
So the 15th, this coming Thursday is the third Thursday.
Okay,
Starts
so
on
just so everybody's clear,
Thursday.
EAC is meeting tomorrow, Wednesday. And that is the 14th. And then the 15th of September, the historic committee is meeting.
Mhm.
Okay.
So are those agendas published?
The EAC is, the historic is still,
It was just ratified
yeah,
in July, right? Our July meeting, we ratified the historic or the establishment of the historic committee. And I think
But
that,
I think we're required when it's a public meeting to
advertise the
publish
meeting.
the agenda.
yeah,
At least
24
24 hours.
beforehand.
Okay.
So I don't know if you have an agenda for the historic committee.
I will. I'm sure our chair does, so I will.
So,
get
I
with
mean,
him.
that's part of the conversation that we were having honestly with staff, is that
Yeah.
perhaps the assistance of a staff person at all of our committee meetings, including the EAC and historic, would be beneficial because supervisors are limited in our time and ability, especially those that are working, to communicate and provide all of the resources that the committee requires.
I think that's a fabulous idea. I think should always be a staff member and somebody to take official notes at
Yeah.
any public meeting, and also the meeting where only two of us attend.
Mhm.
I couldn't encourage that more. I think.
So, I mean, that is a recommendation that I just requested of staff, and I think they're working through the logistics of that. But legally, we will get an agenda. I believe the last agenda was really just the tour of Ingersoll.
Tour of
House.
Ingersoll, and I think meeting is really going to discuss the tour and next steps. If that, I'm sure that doesn't count as publication, but I will get it for you, Neil.
But they're also not going to be making any decisions. that
Correct,
quickly,
there's-
so I don't think we have to worry too much this
Yeah.
month, but
Okay.
getting our
I
feet
think
wet.
we can update a little bit on the EMS meeting
Okay.
yesterday. So Kathleen and I attended the meeting. Our fire marshal called the meeting with all of the members representing the fire stations and the ambulance crew in the area. And I believe Jamie will have minutes from that. But basically, we talked about the current level of work and in broad strokes, the needs, strategic needs for the departments. And we scheduled a follow-up meeting. We're going to try to meet 3 times a year as a committee. I think for the past 2 or 3 years, it has been very ad hoc. And so the meetings have been very sporadic. But we're,
That was with you and Ed.
yeah. But I think we're going to get that back on track as regular meetings.
Awesome.
Do you want to add anything?
No, that was a fine summary. You talked about the needs. They also talked about the health of each of the organizations. They're in pretty good shape, and our goal is to keep them healthy in terms of recruits and financial. There'll be more on that to come.
Yeah. It was a really a bit of good news that both fire departments are recruiting new members.
Mhm.
And so that was a relief. If the public, if I need to remind the public again, our 2 fire companies are 100% volunteer. And it's so important for us to support them and make sure they have what they need to protect us. So recruiting for them is very important. And then during the years of COVID, they were not able to do much independent fundraising. So we may need to address that in upcoming budget discussions, I guess.
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions by anybody on the board? I don't see anybody in the public. Seeing none, we have updates from our staff on municipal activities and projects. I don't know when to start. Do you want to start, Jamie? Does anybody want to start? Is there a volunteer?
I don't actually have any updates, so I'll let Fred go.
Okay.
The roof at Ingersoll has started. They started on the barn. They'll do the house. Hopefully they'll be done by next week.
Did you tell them about the ghosts?
Did they
I
say
didn't want to
anyone?
scare them off.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was more worried about the raccoons, but they
Yeah.
seem to be gone too. And the brine mixing equipment's been moved to the 917 property, so. we
So there's
cleaned up.
no equipment over there?
There's still snow plows in the barn and some miscellaneous stuff that we haven't used yet to move out of there. So most everything's out of that property.
Thank you, Fred. I can tell
Thanks,
you the
Fred.
neighbors in that community, thank you.
Are there any additional updates? From any staff or municipal activities? Okay, we are on par for record. Tessie, supervisor comment?
Yeah, I may mess that up. So I wanted to express my gratitude for cutting the dead trees down in my circle. And I'm wondering if there's a way that we can replant that circle as a demonstration for a no-mow lawn for the township. How can I organize something like that? Yeah,
Some information that we can look at and maybe we can just work something out. And I think our guys can handle it. I just need some kind of planning,
Yeah.
I think.
so we need to grind down the stumps. I've asked the neighbors what kind of trees and, you know, I was in favor of a big shade tree, but they don't want that. They rather have smaller trees like dogwoods and hawthorn, something
that might be better just because of the overhead.
Right,
wires.
and it'll be really pretty. We can pick out plantings that'll be beautiful all year, but I think I really strongly encourage the township to try to adopt no-mow, low maintenance space where we can, and try to start reducing the amount of mowing needed. But we'll have to give careful consideration because there are aesthetics. But I think this would be a great place for a demonstration garden.
I think it's certainly worth some discussion and planning. And we'll have to take in consideration the roots that are already there from those trees.
Mhm.
So it might take a little work, but I certainly think we can give it a try there.
Thanks, Greg. That's all.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to pass my regards and good luck for the Fall Fest this weekend. I am unable to attend. I have huge family commitments in Center City all weekend. But thank you in advance to all the volunteers, Sandy Fight in particular, who does a lot of the heavy lifting, and all of our sponsors. And I brought a little prop as an enticement. I got my little, what do you call the drink that goes on?
A Moscow Mule.
It has the
There's
Fall
nothing in
Fest logo and it's from Gwen Mercy University. They're gonna be handing them out, one per family. I was told starting at noon, but now that the Fanatic is coming, maybe that's gonna switch up. But these are beautiful. They look like they came off of Williams-Sonoma's shelf.
Yeah, they're great.
They're really pretty.
How'd you get
So-
one?
I thought we had to go to the Fall Fest. to get one of them.
Had to attend. Okay.
So good luck with it.
They look great.
Thank you.
They look great. Yeah, just to echo what Kathleen said, please come out to Fall Fest. Thank you to Gwen and Mercy University. Not only do they provide those cups, but they're providing like 25 volunteers to help with the run and to help, get vendors set up, Public Works. I know Fred and your guys are going to be very helpful. Sandy, thank you, and to the committee and all of our sponsors. Gerhard's, I think, is providing a bunch of people to do some heavy lifting as well. So we've got a lot of community partners involved, and it's going to be a really fun event.
No comments.
I just want to echo everything that everybody has said related to the Fall Fest. Please come out. It should be loads of fun. Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to the committee, Sandy, the Public Works people. I'm thanking everybody in advance because I'll forget come the next meeting. But thank you guys all for your dedication and planning and the time and the effort that it took to plan. And I'm sure that it will, I have no doubt that it'll be a beautiful event. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Seconds.
Teddy just threw us for a loop.